Welcome back, Better Investors, to another episode of The Breakdown. And today I have with me Tim Joyner. Tim, I appreciate you coming on to the show. I'm really excited to be interviewing you. I know you have a lot to offer and tell people on this channel. So guys, I appreciate everybody that's subscribed, and we are growing. So make sure you leave a like, subscribe, and even share this video and leave a comment. We're going to have some more giveaways when we reach 500 subscribers. So make sure that you are subscribed and you watch till the end. So Tim, tell me a little bit more about Tim Joyner, who you are, your origin story, and kind of the relationship of how you got to here.
Yeah. It's a big question. I'll try to be brief.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I'll try to be brief. I think in a word, growth, right? So I've always been enamored with growth. I like personal growth. I like professional growth. I like organizational growth. And so most of my life has been focused on my own growth as well as helping other people grow. So whether that's owning marketing agencies, which I've done in the past, or consulting and coaching or investing, I'm really enamored with growth, and most people would consider me an entrepreneur. Some people would say a parallelpreneur because I've got multiple things going at once. But in a nutshell, I like to help people grow.
Ooh, I like that. I've never heard parallelpreneur.
Parallelpreneur. So you've heard of serialpreneur or of a serial entrepreneur, right?
Yeah, I've heard serial.
I start something, I sell it. I start something else, I sell it. I start something else, I sell it. And that's a great way to go about it. Maybe I'm just ADHD or something, but I usually have 2 or 3 or 4 things going at once, five or six right now, where in parallel. And the way you do that is you develop great leadership teams that can actually run the day-to-day. There's no way that I can run 5 things at once, but with great teams, I can be involved in 4 or 5 or 6 things at once. And for me, that's a lot of fun. It keeps life interesting. And so parallelpreneur is what some people call that.
Cool, man. So you're really good at building businesses, and
I've done it a few times anyway.
Yeah, man. That's great, dude. And like, what were you say you got started with that? What age were you when you first built your first project or your first business, or really got started with that?
So my dad has been self-employed my whole life, pretty much his whole life, almost, and so I got a taste of it early on. My parents homeschooled me, for which I'm very grateful. It gave me a lot of time to do other things. And so from the time I was a little kid, I was hanging out with my dad, 10, 12 hours a day and learning from him. So literally as early as I was able to write, I remember writing out invoices for my dad. Like he would take me, he had a rental property among other things. And so I remember when I was like 3 or 4 years old, I would paint closets. So the reason it was a closet because you can't mess up too bad inside a closet, right? If you mess up, nobody sees you. But he would literally give me a little roller or a brush or whatever and teach me how to paint inside a closet, and then I would invoice him for it. So it literally in crayon, painted 2 closets, 25 cents each, 50 cents or whatever. I turned it into my dad and he'd give me my 50 cents. And so, that was from the time I was a little tiny kid. Later on, I guess 10 or 11, I started mowing lawns and eventually started selling stuff door to door. And I bought and sold computers, and I started a computer and technology company and started building websites, all kinds of stuff. But literally, if you count painting closets, I was 4 or 5 years old or something. Yeah. But probably 13 was when I really started a business and treated it like a business.
That's crazy, man. It's kind of like the whole rich dad, poor dad story almost in a way. And I have like a similar upbringing where my granddad, where everybody else was like sleeping in during the summer.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Granddad had me up 6 a.m., right? We're trying to get the grass cut because he lives inside of Mississippi, right? Yeah. And so it gets extremely hot and as well as humid. So if you don't get up and beat the sun in a certain amount of time,
Yeah.
So,
life lessons, right?
Yeah, right? So I started, I'm, 6, 7 years old. I'm out there on this is before they had the 360 lawnmowers, that you could just turn these. Yeah. From there, selling snacks in school. So I'm hearing your story and I'm like, okay, so yeah, he has that young, entrepreneurial upbringing, kind of like exactly what I had, man. And that's awesome.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad is a great book. I'm reading the audiobook with my teenage son right now. Actually, I'm about halfway through it.
And the audio is so good, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's surprising because not a lot of audios have you feeling like this is just as good as the book almost. Yeah. But that audio book is terrific. Yeah, and I think everybody, Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I think it's a must. Yeah. Honestly, it's a must. So I want to talk a little bit more into kind of how you met the banking bros. Mm-hmm. All right, because those are my business partners, and you work with them as well. So where's the connection there, and how did you come across Jonah, Jeremiah, and get to the relationship that you have now?
Yeah. So I think the initial point, Jonah and I actually go to church together here in Greenville, South Carolina.
Okay.
But I have known his brother Jeremiah for the last 25 years. We were in school together, actually in the same, they call it a society. It's basically a fraternity at the college that we went to. And we are 1 year apart. So actually have the same birthday. A little bit of trivia there. But anyway, we were in school together and have stayed in touch and been friends, and then started working together officially a year and a half ago or so. And now I come in and am helping the banking bros. They're awesome at what they do. They know their subject matter expertise really well. I'm applying some of the entrepreneurial lessons that I've learned and helping them kind of organize and scale their business maybe a little bit faster and better than they could on their own.
Yeah, dude, I hear, I'm not always here, right? But I do catch some of the meetings or whatever, and I'm like, yeah, man, it sounds pretty intense in terms of what they're learning and what they're doing.
Yeah, those guys are smart. They're killing it and doing really well. It's fun to work with people that can. I mean, they don't need me, right? They're going to be successful with or without me. Hopefully, I can help them be a little bit better. But
yeah, and that's one of the things I like about working with them too. Is like you were talking about having a team, right? And just being able to scale a business or grow something. And the one thing I like about working with the banking bros is that I understand and know that their cup is never full.
Yep.
And they're constantly wanting to get better and grow and learn from other people and network with other people. Yep. And that's helped me to come out of my shell a little bit, because especially like with day trading and stuff like that, like it's kind of like a loner lifestyle type of thing, because you can't go with the crowd. That's literally the opposite of how you're successful when you're talking about day trading and investing. Most people think it's like you do something that is the obvious move, and you're countering the masses. You're countering the everyday people, because by the time it hits the news or whatever the case is, the effect in the market has already kind of happened. It's priced it in, as they would say. Right. So the that's like I said, working with a team, it definitely helps. It definitely it builds you as a person, but also too it helps you achieve whatever it is you're trying to achieve faster. So going into a little bit of what you do and talking about, I wanted to get into like your software company, sure. Right? So I know you gave me a little bit of a background on it, and as far as like it being used inside of thrift stores, primarily like Goodwill, which is awesome too, being at the purpose that Goodwill serves. So that's kind of like what you were saying, like growing, everything being surrounded by growth. Goodwill helps supply opportunities and jobs and different things like that. So I know you gave me a little bit of the background, but if you would, kind of what does the technology help achieve inside of that store?
Yeah, so I'm a minority partner in a company that makes software for the thrift store industry, specifically for Goodwills. So we have about 700 stores across the nation that use our software. You think about a normal retail store, and it's a pretty straightforward operation, right? I put out a purchase order. My buyer decides I want 1,000 of XYZ product, and they put out a purchase order, and we know exactly how much it's going to cost us to obtain it. We know what we're going to sell it for. They all come with barcodes. It's a very straightforward process, and I sell it up for more than I paid for it. Sell it, and mark it up, and sell it for more than I paid for it. But with thrift, right, if you decide that you're done with that hat and you're going to donate it, right, you're going to donate it, and it's going to come in the back room of this thrift store, and somebody there who probably doesn't have a lot of education, maybe working for minimum wage, has to decide, is this hat worth $1 or is it worth $100 because it's some sort of a collectible or a really great brand name?
Yeah.
Right. And really the whole success of your store depends not on the executives that have MBAs, but on the minimum wage folks that are actually working in the back room. Right. And so then what if they put out bad merchandise? Maybe it's got a stain on it and nobody buys it. Well, now it sits on your floor for a long time, and a lot of stuff ends up just collecting that nobody wants to buy. Before you know it, you got a store full of junk that nobody wants to come shop at, and you got a business, right? So our software helps price, process, merchandise. If it doesn't sell, we have a way of discounting it to make it sell, and eventually identifying things that haven't sold in a long enough period of time that we pull it off the floor and send it to salvage. And I'm just getting started. There's a whole lot more to it.
Yeah.
That's the software, and it really helps make better decisions at all levels of the organization and optimize your retail operation inside of thrift.
It kind of, to summarize it, it's like inventory logistics in a way.
Yeah, it's more than that. It's the point of sale. It's the actual cash register up front. It's the processing. It's inventory, but inventory and logistics is absolutely a piece of it.
And I told you this before already. I like it a lot because I'm an investor, right? Better investments. Of course, yourself being the best investment, and that's why I'm going to be talking a little bit more into as we go. But the idea of the technology, I think that I tell people this all the time. I've been saying it for years. I think that the technology now that's brewing is meant to replace people in the workforce. And the people that either help create the technology, invest into the technology, or know how to fix the technology, that's where the job. Yeah, those are where the jobs are at, right? So the future is not necessarily it's being good with your hands, but being skilled in what you do. Mm-hmm. So it no longer, I think, simplified jobs will go out the window, and more complex, or it takes more of a specialty. Is what's going to be required. And that's why I like investing into those kind of technologies, just like the one you're talking about now. And it's crazy because you've been doing it for years now up to this point. And that's exactly some of the technologies that's coming out now in terms of automation and making it possible to do some of the things you're talking about. So that's super awesome that you're already kind of on that wave. So I know that it's no surprise to you, right?
Yeah, right.
You're just kind of like, okay, cool. This is coming along, and you might even have some improvements that you're going to make because of the technology.
Always.
You grow, like the growth aspect of it, right? Getting into the shoes, right? You have a shoe business as well.
I do.
All right. Primarily, what would you say? Is it men's and women's, or is it just men's shoes?
Men's shoes. So we make shoes in Brazil. They're typically, there are a few exceptions where we're experimenting with other stuff, but for the most part, they're 100% genuine leather. So really high quality, really comfortable shoes. But we've taken sort of an old fashioned concept like a wingtip or a brogue or an Oxford or whatever, and modernized it some way to make it unique. So we'll put a red stripe through the sole, or we'll pair a leather really nice upper with a sneaker sole, or we'll do some sort of a yellow accent on the back or whatever, something that makes it really interesting and unique. But it's a really high quality. In many cases, it's handmade in Brazil. So, and then we import them to the States and sell them online. I
really like Oxfords. So to hear you to say that, it's like we take the style of it and kind of and put it. Yeah, dude, that's that's awesome, and it's for both dress and like a casual wear.
Yeah,
business casual wear.
It trends. It skews a little bit more toward dress, but absolutely we have. I wear my shoes almost every single day to almost every sort of outing, right? So if I'm going to a backyard barbecue, or I'm going to, just about anything other than like playing basketball, I'm probably wearing my shoes. But it skews a little bit more toward dress.
So you do some hooping from time to time?
Very little. That was racquetball is actually, I should have said racquetball, but I didn't know if everybody would identify with that as much as basketball. But I do play racquetball a lot.
Okay, and familiarize me with racquetball, because I have a picture in my head of what it is, but I want to make sure I'm right before I just say something crazy, right?
So racquetball is in a closed court with a ceiling and 4 walls, and it's a rubber ball, and it's sort of like tennis, except that you both share the same space. So the whole court is for both of you. There's no net. And you can think of the front wall as the net. So every time I hit the ball, and in tennis, I've got to get it over the net. In racquetball, I've got to bounce it off the front wall. It's going to bounce off the front wall, come back, and then you've got to hit it before it hits the floor, right?
I've seen this on a movie.
Okay, yeah. So
I've seen this.
Racquetball is a great form of exercise because you're constantly sprinting. In playing 3 games, I usually play about 6:30 or 7 in the morning, and I'll burn close to 1,000 calories before my first meeting. So it's a great sport.
I can imagine, because I remember I went to right here in Greenville, going to school, and we'd go to the Croc Center.
Yeah.
And you don't know how hard tennis is.
Yeah.
Until you play tennis seriously.
Play competitively. Yeah.
Like, so it was this professional tennis guy. He had won awards or whatever, but he worked at the Croc Center.
Yeah.
And the guy had to be 60 plus, right?
But he could whoop your tail.
And oh my gosh, he lined the whole class up and wore us all out. I'm like, gosh, one after one, one after another. I'm like, this 60-something-year-old guy, no way.
That's one of the things I like about racquetball. There are people I regularly play, like on a weekly basis, play with people that are 20 or 30 years older than me, and they're still really good. Like there are guys that are 70 and 80 years old that can still play racquetball at a high level, and it's awesome.
And yeah, I mean, as you can imagine, like you said, like the exercise, like that has to do something terrific for the body as you get older. But that's amazing. I'm going to look into the shoes as well, because like one big thing is getting good high quality dress shoes
that are comfortable. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So like I was just about to say, like half the time it's you can get them, but your foot is falling off.
Right.
Or like the backside of them rub your ankle really, really bad or something like that. So like
usually that's either because it's cheap materials, and so like leather, you think about leather, people don't think about this, but it's kind of weird to think of it, but it's skin, right? That's what leather is. It is. So if you get I don't know, you get a bruise on your arm or something that swells up, right? It's not like your skin, it just adjusts, right? It stretches and morphs and grows with you. Well, your foot throughout the day, literally, as you're standing all day, your foot literally changes size almost to full shoe size. Not quite, but it gets bigger throughout the day. And so if you're wearing a synthetic material that doesn't stretch or doesn't move with your foot, it's going to be uncomfortable. But a leather shoe that's leather on the inside and the outside is actually going to conform throughout the day. It's got to be leather, yeah. So anyway, our shoes are leather, and it tend to be really comfortable, well-made. They look great. They feel great. They last long. That's kind of the promise.
How often do you go to Brazil?
So I'm going in about 2 weeks. I'll be down there for 8 days with my partner. Actually, Jeremiah, your partner, is going with me as well. Okay. And we'll be down there for.
Last time you took my man somewhere, he was falling off an avalanche.
Yeah, I know, right?
I gotta watch. I'm like, hey, I gotta talk to Tim before he take you somewhere next time. Man, we need you.
I took him to Denver a few weeks ago, and as you observe, he went full horizontal down the mountain and landed on his thumb, and ended up having to go with ski patrol. Gave him like a 5-mile sled ride down to the emergency room. But anyway, hopefully I'll take better care of him next time.
Yeah, well, this sounds a little bit safer. There is no snow in Brazil, I don't think so.
Not where we're going down in the south at this time of year. They get snow sometimes.
They do? Okay,
yeah, but not now.
Is it more jungle? Is it like jungle?
I mean, we'll be in the
environment?
city. So we'll be in the city, so there's no jungle. But yeah, there is. The rainforests of Brazil, farther north, which is closer to the equator. But we're going to be way down in the south tip of Brazil.
Got it. Okay, man. Yeah, that's crazy. I want to get into real estate. I'll go ahead and give a little bit of a background. I know you got started at 22, which is crazy. I'm like, dang. It's like everything was better back then.
The time to get started in anything is always now, right? Because it's, with a few, maybe 2008 now wasn't the time, right, or something. But for the most part, it's the time is now. But yeah, I have been at it for 16, 17 years.
Yeah, and I know now it's like if you're a 22-year-old coming into this market, you better brushing up your skills or have a mentor for sure, because like if the interest rate don't cut you, you're gonna get cut on the equity prices. Yeah. I know you're saying, like you said, you have a portfolio of real estate, mostly like long-term rentals is what you're looking into.
Long-term residential real estate is mostly what I do.
Is it multifamily, single family?
A little of both, but mostly single family.
2-bedroom, two bedroom, 1 bath, 3-bedroom, 2 bath, 2.5.
Yeah, all the above. A 3-2 is sort of my ideal, but a lot of my stuff is 3-1 or 2-1. Just depends on where it is. A lot of mill houses, things that in the South we have mill houses, not necessarily all over the country. You might not recognize that term, but a whole bunch of homes that were built around the mill. Right? You know what it is.
Yeah.
So that's mostly what I have.
What's crazy is and you probably already know, is you see all the mill houses that they've done in the Woodside area, going towards downtown Greenville and all in that district. Man, it's crazy. Because I stay in the Welcome area now.
Yep.
But when I grew up like around the West Greenville area. So to see all of this, like, to see what they did, they took these structures and turned them into something completely. It's mind blowing almost.
A mill house that 10 years ago you could have bought for $15,000 is now selling for $150,000.
I mean, and the rents on them are crazy as well.
Yeah.
But they are unique in some of the things that they offer. Mm-hmm. It's different from if you stayed inside like a apartment building or something like that. Like if you go in there, it's like, oh wow, the amenities are mad different. They have like pool tables. I've seen all kind of stuff when I went in those things. So I'm like, okay, I see why people would want to stay here. So yeah, dude, getting into real estate, what would you say are some of the things that you were looking for? Like I said, because you started at 22, what were some of the things you were looking for? Did you have a mentor, somebody holding your hand? How did you get a safe travel, so to speak, or a good start on your path?
Yeah, absolutely. I mentioned before, my parents homeschooled me. Mom and dad were involved in several different businesses, but the biggest thing they've done my whole life is real estate. They've got rental property. And so I talked about spending a lot of time with my dad because I wasn't obligated to go to school from, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. or whatever. School kind of fit in around the family businesses. And so I spent a lot of time with dad learning not only how to fix stuff, right? How to fix a toilet and how to install a ceiling fan and how to patch a roof and all those kinds of things, but also how do you lease a property? How do you buy a property? How do you do a credit check so that you don't rent it to somebody that's going to rip you off and not pay the rent, and all kinds of stuff. So absolutely, I had a huge leg up in that. I started at 22, but really, I'd sort of been in the real estate business for 20 years already. A long time ago, right? It just wasn't my business.
That's awesome. In homeschooling too, I always wonder, because I always say, I don't have children right now, but I always say, I will homeschool my children, and so on and so forth, because nowadays school is kind of a scary place too.
Yeah, a lot of them are.
Yep. Things have changed. I don't think I feel comfortable until I see like a security guard there or something like that. But with that being said, is like, did you have people that came out and tutored you or taught you classes, or like?
My mom.
Your mom did all the. Wow.
Yeah.
So she herself would have to. Like, you had to have like state exams that you would take or something like that, or was it like a curriculum based?
Illinois. I grew up in Northern Illinois. Illinois at the time was pretty relaxed. So there was. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think I got a great education, but there wasn't a whole lot of government oversight. Like, which, by the way, sort of is a comfortable situation for me. Like, I think that, unfortunately, there are far too many parents who are not good parents, and so that's why the state, feels obligated to come in and put some structure around this. But as far as I'm concerned, I trust a parent to act in the best interest of their child more than the state. So the fact that there's not a lot of regulation actually is just fine with me. And in my case, I got a great education, but there wasn't a whole lot of required testing or whatever. But we had a curriculum, and I learned all the traditional subjects, but I learned probably a lot more, and probably obtain a lot more value from learning how to invest in stocks and bonds and how to buy a property.
Mark Twain said, "I never let school get in the way of my education."
Yeah, right.
Right.
Exactly.
So you're talking about education.
I got a great
school
education.
That's I think that's like, especially in America, people have a very, very sour taste in their mouth because they don't separate the two.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, school, you might not like the structure of school or the money and expenses that come with going to college or so on and so forth. But the education in itself is no problem.
Yeah.
That's something that you need no matter what it is. And that goes like to talking about like as far as like the technology and so on and so forth. You have to be educated when there's a AI that's super smart.
Yeah, right.
But the AI it has to be programmed based on the consciousness of humans, based on what we know and what we experience and so on and so forth. So we still have to keep growing and educating ourselves as much as possible.
For sure.
But yeah, man, that's very impactful. And speaking of impact is Impact Avalanche. So kind of go into that. I know it's brand building, helping people build their brands. What are some tips that you would say in terms of if I'm somebody trying to build my brand now? What are like some easy tips for me? And then of course you can dive into what it is.
So I'll tell you the genesis story for this business, Impact Avalanche. Probably a little over a year and a half ago, I was meeting with JD, right, one of your partners, and you work with him at the Banking Bros, and we were eating lunch. It was 11:30 in the morning. I remember it very distinctly. And at that point in the day, I'd had 3 meetings so far. And I was feeling pretty good about those meetings. Like, I had created real value for my clients, or I don't remember who they were, but I remember I'd created a lot of value that morning and had solved some problems, made some introductions, helped them see some opportunity. It was a good day. And I remember sitting down with Jeremiah and saying, I've had a good morning. I've met with 3 people and I've created real value. But I've impacted 3 people. And by this point in the day, you, JD, have probably impacted 3,000 people or maybe 30,000 people.
Yeah, he comes across a lot of people.
You have, it's not just that you've had 3 coffee meetings, but you've posted a video or 3 that have blown up to thousands of people that have seen it by 11:30 in the morning. You're creating influence at a scale that I can't match. And so I said, JD, can you coach me? I want to hire you as my coach to help me. And he's like, well, I'm not a coach. Like that's not what I do. I said, yeah, but you know how to do it. You've been there, done that. I want to pay you to meet with you once a week and have you hold me accountable and teach me and, show me the ropes, because I want to be able to create value at scale. And I knew that I wasn't very comfortable in front of a camera. I wasn't a good storyteller. Like I didn't have all the skills that he had, but I thought I can learn that stuff if I have a good mentor. So that's how that started. And after 6 months in, I'd reached 1 million people, which blew my expectations out of the water. Like I never dreamed that I would be able to reach that many people. And I said, Jeremiah, there are lots of other high impact entrepreneurs and thought leaders and business people that that have a valuable message to deliver, but they don't know how to do this. And at that point, we'd hired a team in the Philippines. We built some technology and some automation. And there are lots of people that want what we have, but they don't know how to hire the team in the Philippines. They don't know how to build the technology, the automation. They don't have you, JD. Why don't we systematize all this and export it and start a business helping other people? And so that was the genesis of Impact Avalanche. Avalanche, of course, the idea of, some strategically placed charges on the top of a mountain, and things start really small. You don't even see it. And before you know it, you have this thundering mountain of snow coming down. And so social media is kind of like that, right? It starts out with some strategically placed charges. You make a few decisions right, and and then before you know it, you've got this huge impact. And so that was how we started Impact Avalanche, and now what we do as one of those parallelpreneur things we talked about, right? One of them is Impact Avalanche.
Man, that's super awesome. And J-Do especially, I noticed one of the things I was comfortable with speaking more so. I think it was for me was presentation, how to present yourself and how to say something in the best way possible. Yeah. I know he helped me out a lot with that, and I can definitely understand where you come from with that, because he'd be like, Rob, it's not so much of what you're saying. You got a lot of raw potential. You have raw material, but that's it. It's just so raw. Yeah. Like you don't have a way of structuring what you're saying or saying it in a way to where people want to accept what you're saying, so that they can comprehend and hear you instead of just simply seeing you talk or whatever the case is. And so
I've still got a long way to go and all that stuff, but I'm getting better. But yeah, you asked me a question which I didn't really answer about tips.
The tips.
I don't know. JD's the guy to really give you some valuable tips, but I would say one of the things that I had to learn was volume is important. I don't mean like quiet versus loud. I mean production volume, the amount of content that you create, because nobody watches. I mean, you think about, even if you really like somebody, if you follow, I don't know, Grant Cardone or whoever, right? You don't watch every single video that he puts out.
No, not at all.
But if he puts out one video a month, the chances of you seeing it are maybe kind of slim because you're busy that day or you're not. But if he puts out one video a day, you're probably going to see a lot more than one a month, right? And so the volume idea of being able to produce a lot of valuable content
in different forms too. Yeah, he has the books, the emails,
right.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I had to come to grips with. I'm like, well, I'm really obsessed with quality and perfection. Like if I write a blog post, it's going to be a great blog post. I'm going to make it as perfect as I can. But how much was I publishing? Well, this tiny little amount. And now, for the first year, suddenly we were producing at least one video a day that was going on TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, like all over the place. My volume just blew up, and that's how we reached 1 million people in 6 months. And I had never done that before. And so anyway, that's one of the things, obviously what you said about figuring out how to say it in such a way that it's compelling and it gets people's attention and it creates value for them. And, but for me, the goal was I want to create value for a whole lot of people, because that's going to keep me sort of top of mind for them. And when they have a problem, they're going to think, oh, I bet Tim Joyner knows how to solve that. When they have an opportunity that they're not sure how to solve or seize, they're going to say, hey, I think Tim Joyner probably knows how to help me seize that. When they want to start a new business, they need a partner, they need a coach, a consultant, a fractional executive, They want to buy shoes. I want them to think Tim Joyner. And if I'm creating value for them all the time, that's going to be an automatic thing for them. So that was kind of how we got started. And I would say to anybody, like, you think about the people who are really succeeding and thriving, most of them are creating value at a huge scale, and they're probably leveraging social media to do it.
Yeah, man. That's a lot. There's definitely some great tips in that. It's just like understanding the value. Having from kind of what I picked up is you need to have volume. You need to be consistency as well.
Yeah.
Having consistency. People want to be entertained. Different forms or different ways of connecting with people as well, so that they're seeing you and just understanding, utilizing technology, utilizing some of the things that you can that's already out there that you can leverage to make your opportunity that you're trying to present to other people. Sometimes you have to take advantage of opportunities on your end to make whatever it is that you're trying to do even better. So I like that about it. And then the fractional executive, you already kind of went into that. I know you broke it down to me as essentially you're not a full-time, or you're not actually on payroll or part of that business, but you come in and you do some operations within the business and serve that role as an executive or CFO or CEO or whatever the case is at the time. Speak a little bit to that.
Yeah. So fractional executive work is something that has been around for a long time, but it's growing in popularity. A lot of people, though, still haven't heard of it. Let's suppose that you've got a business with a dozen, 15, 30 employees, and you know that you really need some more expertise, some more leadership in the area of finance and accounting, let's say, or marketing or operations or whatever. But you can't afford a $200,000 position to hire this Ivy League MBA CFO, let's say, or CMO or whatever. But you really need that level of expertise and leadership. Yeah. So you might look for a fractional executive, and you hire a fractional CMO or CFO or COO or CRO or whatever, where they're going to come in maybe instead of 50 hours a week, they're going to give you 5 hours a week or 10 or whatever. And they're going to actually be part of your executive team. They'll be in your executive meetings. They'll lead that team. They'll hire and fire finance and accounting people or marketing people or whatever. But you're getting all of their expertise and judgment, decision-making, experience, but not all of their hours. And then that person can go do that for 3 or 4 companies. It's a lot more cost-effective for the business. It's lucrative for the CFO as well, or the fractional CMO or whatever. But it's a great way to get access to talent without having to pay, high 6 figures. And so I do that for a very limited number of clients where I think there's real opportunity and I can really make a big impact. It's a fun role where I can come in and leverage my experience without having to, have a full-time job. But obviously it's not possible with all the other stuff I've got going on. Yeah,
man. It definitely sounds like, and that comes back to the education too. Really, it's like that role that you're fulfilling is you're fulfilling it because you're Tim, not necessarily because of a credential or a piece of paper or whatever the case is, but it's because of who you are, what you know, and what you're good at. Right. And that's why I tell anybody, like, better investments equals a better future. That's the slogan. That's our motto, because the best investment is yourself.
Absolutely.
And the more you educate yourself. And I think that's what it is. Education is the investment. And especially, like I said, in America, especially, it's like we've made school the education. School the investment. But in reality, education is the investment. Yep. And education is you growing yourself in many different ways. So last but not least, to finish it off, grow with Tim. I know you were saying, well, I want people to think about Tim, about whether it's shoes or, coaching and finance, give me a little bit more into what will I see if I go to, growwithtim.com.
Yeah.
And what value do I get from that?
So growwithtim.com is just a really basic landing page that points you to my various social channels. So you can follow me on YouTube or LinkedIn or Instagram or wherever you want to be. And what you're going to find is a lot of short form content focused on growth. So it's things that are going to help challenge you in the way that you think, in the way that you act, in the way that you lead. And that's all free. I don't make a dime off that, except that if somebody sees something and they're like, oh man, I want to hire him to come in and consult. Well, obviously there's a price tag on that, but the content itself, I'm not making anything. I'm not selling anything. There's no, hidden agenda like, oh, sign up for my free, my free course that actually is going to charge you $100 a month or whatever. Like there's no hook. But yeah, growwithtim.com is the place to follow. The shoe thing we talked about is polished.shoes. So www.polished.shoes. There are other ways to connect with me on LinkedIn. There's a link there from Grow with Tim. If you want to reach out, got an opportunity before you that you want help seizing. You've got a challenge that you need help overcoming. You're starting a new business. You're looking for advice. Feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn or via my calendar link.
Yeah, man. Well, definitely, I'll have all your links and how to get in touch with you inside the description. And like I said, I appreciate you coming on, Tim. I've been wanting to interview you and just know more about what you got going on and talk to you a little bit more for a while now. So it's been very, very interesting to hear more about who you are, what you do, and kind of like myself, you do 5 million things. Yeah, right. So it's not, you were telling me I do 5 things, but when you were describing them, I'm like, I don't think he realized that this is not 5 things. every one thing has a subcategory of 3 things. So, but yeah, man, it's awesome. I appreciate you coming on. Guys, better investments equals a better future, of course. And make sure you like, subscribe, also share the video, leave a comment, let us know what you think. The links will be inside the descriptions. And once again, like I said, we're doing a $100 giveaway when we reach 500 subscribers on YouTube. We've been going up quickly. The channel has been growing very, very quickly. So I know the viewers will look forward to this interview as well. Better investments equals a better future. And I see you guys inside the next video.
Thanks, Rob.